Hello my friends and welcome back to the last bacon there's interviews on this channel apparently. Okay, so it just happened that these two aligned, I swear. But today we are joined by none other than the man, the myth, the legend, Lee23. Now in case you don't know who Lee is, he's probably one of the most prominent figures in Subnautica modding, being at least partially responsible for like a massive amount of mods out there, from the Sea Voyager, to the Bloop and the Blaza Leviathans, to the custom water level, de-extinction, the wind turbines, the mirror world, you name it. Of course, the big one in the title of this video, the Return of the Ancients, on which he is one of the key programmers. Now, of course, we're all very excited for that mod, but we haven't really had any massive updates in the longest time, so Lee has very graciously agreed to an interview to tell us a little bit about where the mod is, his background with modding, and maybe even some tips about how you could get into modding yourself. Now, before we jump into it, just a quick disclaimer: if I seem a little tired in this video or my voice doesn't seem quite as energetic, we were trying to work with both of our time zones, and this ended up being at 3 in the morning for me, so I apologize if the energy levels are not maybe fully there. Additionally, I want to give a massive shout out to Lee for taking the time to do this. Links to his socials as well as the Subnautica modding Discord are down in the description. You guys should most definitely check them out if you want to support Subnautica modding. And with that, put this in the background like a nice podcast and enjoy. I will definitely give you a proper introduction in the video when it goes out, but for anybody who might not know of who you are, even though I don't think that's going to be a lot of people, would you mind giving like a super quick elevator pitch introduction of who you are in the community?
Oh, okay, sure. Hey, I'm Lee23. You also might know me as 32eel, same thing. I've been modding Subnautica for about 4 or 5 years now, and as of recently, I've been made organization leader of Subnautica modding, and while there are many others, currently I'm the only active one, so there's a lot of work on my back. My main projects right now are Return of the Ancients, Nautilus, and the Subnautica Mod Manager. But I also have many projects of my own that are on hold.
Nice, amazing. Thank you for the introduction. So you mentioned 4 to 5 years, which is really impressive, honestly, for Subnautica. And I'm curious, what was it about Subnautica that kind of originally attracted you to modding that game specifically?
The thing that always attracted me to Subnautica was the sci-fi setting, like all the aesthetics as well, and the open world feel. I always wanted to see more of that, just more Subnautica, and that's why I started modding.
That makes sense. I mean, it is an amazing game, and I definitely agree with the more the merrier. I believe you also made mods for other games though, right? I think I saw a Valheim mod that you made at some point. Is there any other game that you're sort of actively modding, or maybe a game you would like to get into modding but you just haven't had the opportunity yet?
Currently, no. Subnautica is very time consuming, but I've always been interested in modding Minecraft.
Okay.
It has the same attract, in my opinion.
I mean, it shares that kind of open world survival aspect, I suppose. There's plenty of creativity. I feel like Minecraft modding is so much further along than Subnautica's that it could be an interesting one to get into. I like that you mentioned that it is a ton of work, because I think kind of the average mortal might not fully comprehend what all goes into creating a mod, right? So this is going to be kind of challenging, but could you give just like a very quick, super high level, you know, broad strokes summary in like 30 seconds-ish of the big steps that go into creating a simple mod? Just if you had to like sum it up for somebody who's never done it before.
Alright, as of recently, it's been made a lot easier now, so you want to go to Visual Studio and install the Subnautica modding templates, and then you can just open up a template from there, and you already have a working mod project. If you want to use Nautilus, you can add a dependency there, and then you just want to make new files for every prefab you want, so that's like an item or a creature, anything like that. And then in Nautilus, we have templates for a lot of those things.
Do people need to learn C# to be able to mod?
Yeah, you'll need to be pretty familiar with C# and object-oriented programming in general. However, if you know Java, I'm pretty sure you'll know how to mod Subnautica.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I was going to ask if before you got into Subnautica modding, if you're already doing other types of coding so that it was kind of like an easier transition.
Actually, no. Subnautica modding was what got me into programming.
So on that note, actually, I have a question here, which is, are you now, or would you be in the future, interested in essentially pursuing a career as a game developer or a games programmer?
It's definitely something I've considered.
Mm-hmm.
It's either that or just general software design.
Right. You already mentioned this at the start. I'm going to sort of slowly transition away from the background lore to what people are probably the most excited about, which has got to be the Return of the Ancients stuff. And you already mentioned that you have a pretty vital role in that mod, but could you describe it a little bit more, kind of what you've been working on over the years that it's been in development?
Yeah, I've been one of the main two programmers on Return of the Ancients, and I've been designing basically all of the framework of the mod, which sadly needs to be redone because of the last update, but it's going along pretty well. And anything from like putting objects into the world to like an effect on the screen, that's what us programmers have been doing.
Nice. I think it's super impressive. Speaking of, I'm kind of curious, since I believe you're one of the OGs of the mod. Is that right? Have you been on the project pretty much since the beginning?
Yes.
Could you, just in very brief terms, describe what is the origin story of the Return of the Ancients? How did it come to be? Where did the idea come from?
Oh, so in the Subnautica modding Discord server, we have an ideas channel, and I think it's been changed since, but creature suggestions were banned because they were too complex. And I was like, wait, but we could still do creatures. Why are we banning creature mods? And then me and some other people came together in a group chat, maybe like 5 to 6 of us, and we were just like, oh, there's a model here of the Gargantuan Leviathan. Let's put this in the game. And then it eventually formed into what we have today, Architects of the Unknown.
Nice. That's actually really cool. And I believe the modding Subnautica Discord is still very active, right?
Yeah, it's where all the modders discuss pretty much anything.
Would you say it's a good resource for maybe an aspiring modder to go to if somebody wants to get into Subnautica modding? Would that be a good place to start?
Yes, absolutely. We don't have enough documentation to cover every possible thing, so if you want to know something, you got to ask us.
That makes sense. Speaking of kind of the whole origin story and the Return of the Ancients, could you, I don't know how much you're at liberty to speak of this, since obviously parts of the mod are being kept kind of secret for release, but could you just briefly describe what the state of the mod is right now, kind of how it's looking?
Yeah, I'd say it's in an interesting state right now. We've been working on the base building. At least that's the last thing I touched personally. We're working on some secret story things. That's been most of the development time, is story related content, any sort of structures or stuff that's added by the mod.
And I think it's actually very good that you mentioned this, because you said earlier that the 2.0 update kind of really, shook things up a bit. So for people that don't know and are wondering, what's the delay, why is it taking so long, could you just explain how big of a change the 2.0 update was to kind of the entire code base of Return of the Ancients?
Oh yeah, the way assets are loaded was completely changed. If you were loading an asset, any code that referenced the code that loaded that asset has to be changed as well. And stuff no longer occurs like instantly. It occurs over a small period of time, so that just means everything has to be rewritten.
Yeah, and you mentioned that it's only 2 programmers on the project, right?
Return of the Ancients, yes. Currently only 2, Mishis and myself.
Which is super impressive that you guys are basically doing all of this by yourself. I'm not sure if you know the exact number, but if you just had to kind of guesstimate, well, how many lines of code are we talking for the mod?
Oh, let's see. If we have a tool file that is 1,000 lines alone, I'd guess. I know we have like 200 code files. I don't know. They could be anywhere from, so I'd say about 40,000 to 50,000.
Wow.
Could be a lot more. Could be a lot less.
That is really, really impressive, especially given the fact that you guys are essentially a free project, right? Like, this isn't being funded by any official means.
No, just the Patreon, which I don't think we've spent the money there yet. We're saving it for stuff like custom music and such.
it's perfect that you mentioned the music. It's a brilliant segue here because I wanted to ask if the studio Unknown Worlds has had any engagement with you guys and with the mod over the years.
Yeah, Unknown Worlds has been really helpful. They've given us some like permission to use their assets, which is really nice when we're making a mod that's trying to be in line with the vanilla game as much as possible. And they've even given us tips and tricks and guidelines on how to keep our mod true to the game.
That's actually really brilliant. Was there ever a conversation about making the mod official, sort of being officially supported as like DLC or something by the studio?
I don't think so, but I know the emails were lost and I couldn't check myself.
Makes sense. And I mean, I would imagine since I spoke to Abraxas recently, he was talking a lot about kind of the issues with copyright, especially when it comes to kind of the intellectual property, the ideas and stuff that you're working on. So I would imagine it must be very difficult to get something like this pushed to be an official product without all of you guys just getting hired.
We've been having legal issues for actually a while now in Nautilus. It's nothing huge, but currently as it stands, we need to make some changes to make sure we're safe in the future.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Man, it must be tricky. This might be a dumb question, but do you have somebody on your team who's sort of handling the official kind of communications? Like, imagine a producer at a studio, right?
I mean, I've been taking in everyone's contributions and merging them into the code base, but as a director specifically, I don't think we have anyone.
Right, fair. I mean, what you mentioned about the team forming, it's pretty much just a bunch of people who were into Subnautica modding coming together, right?
Yeah, for Return of the Ancients.
I'm also curious, since you mentioned Nautilus and some of these, there's other big mod projects, right? Recently, just 2 days ago, I saw, I think Socks for One posted on Twitter an announcement of, he called it Socknautica or something, which was a bunch of cool stuff, bunch of new creatures, and I believe your name popped up in the credits there as well. So I'm curious, how do you see the Return of the Ancients kind of fitting in with these other big mod packs?
That's something we really need to work on, because currently there will be issues, like if a mod adds back like the white tablet. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but there's already 2 mods that add that back, so you could break progression easily.
Right.
We need to work out any sort of incompatibilities, but we do plan. It is like one of the most important things to us that is compatible with other mods.
That makes sense. Have you been in a lot of contact with other modding teams?
Currently, we haven't made too many efforts, but we know who to reach out to when the time comes to port the mod fully to 2.0 and test it.
Sounds good. When can fans expect an update? Because I swear, I mean, I'm getting like probably at least one comment a day ever since I put the first video out asking about, when this thing is coming out. So I'm not going to ask when it's going to come out, since I'm pretty sure you might not be able to say, but when can people expect an update?
That will at least be after Nautilus is released, which could take a while. I want to say by the end of this year.
By the end of this year, there could be an update. Obviously, nothing is for certain. Things could change. Stuff changes all the time. But let's say if things go smooth, we can at least expect some sort of an update by the end of the year.
Yes, as soon as we get it ported to 2.0 and working, I think we will do an update then.
Brilliant. Yeah, I think it's absolutely amazing, and I'm 100% certain the entire collective community is looking forward to it, because people have been really excited. I've been really excited to get my hands on like the finished product, so you guys are doing God's work as far as I'm concerned. Finally, last question of the day. I'm not going to hold you for any longer, but this is obviously the most important one that everybody's been dying to know. What does the 23 stand for?
Oh, it rhymes with Lee.
That's all you need. I love that. The perfect argument. Okay, fair enough. Thank you so much for taking the time.
All right.
Really appreciate you coming on and doing this bit of public speaking. I know it can be tricky. Is there anyone you'd want to give a shout out to, or any social media that you'd like to plug, or maybe stuff that you want to say out to the world now that you have the chance?
Oh yeah, Nautilus is the 2.0 port of SML Helper with a ton of new features and fixes and overhauls, and it takes a lot less time to make a mod now, and there's a lot more you can do.
It's amazing. So if anything, if somebody's wanting to become a modder, now is like, once Nautilus is out, is going to be the best time. So now is a good time to start learning, right?
Yeah, we would love to see new modders. We are low on manpower right now.
Absolutely. So would I. I'm going to link, obviously, any socials of yours that you'd like in the description.
All right.
But that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for coming on. And thank you guys so much for watching. Please go jump into the description and check out the links pinned there if you're interested in Subnautica modding or just supporting this community in general. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, maybe consider leaving a like, commenting, or subscribing. All of those would be very much appreciated. And with that, I'm gonna wish you all a beautiful rest of today, and I'll see you in whatever next video I make. Bye bye.